So today is Tuesday. It's Tech Tuesday, and we are need to mute some stuff here. Okay, so I've got to get the stream up and ready for IAEI News Live today, and I thought I am pressed for time, so I'm going to do that, and we're going to talk about the topic that I plan to talk about today on IAEI News Live, and we're going to talk about risk. Now, it's Electrical Safety Month. We're in May. It's May 7th, and this is Electrical Safety Month, and you know, at the end of the month, we have Shock Week. It is going to go on. So the end of May is Shock Week. It's going to be the very last day, May 30th. We have an Eaton broadcast that I'm very proud of from the hard work of Gene Fiorina and others on our marketing team at Eaton. We're bringing an event that you all are going to start hearing about to those who are registered. So I just want to let you know about that, and stay tuned on my channel for more on that topic. So, but today's discussion is on risk. So what I'm planning to do, and I've got to make the. So what I'm doing now is I am making the cover, and I have to make the stream. I have to set up the YouTube channel for IAEI News Live, and it's not that hard for me to create a cover because I keep them consistent, and I'm just calling this one Risk. Risk is comprised of two key components. If there's anything that you remember about electrical safety or safety in general, we have to understand what risk is. We have to also understand that we all accept some level of risk. I gotta make sure I'm not supposed to have a meeting. Nope, I don't have a meeting right now. So we all accept some level of risk in our day-to-day lives, in our day-to-day business. There is no such thing as zero risk because of the fact that do a file export. So what I did was I did the PowerPoint. And now I am exporting this. I did the PowerPoint. I copy the image from PowerPoint. I put it into Adobe Photoshop. I paste the image into Photoshop, and then I export it. IAEI News Live -risk. I export it to a folder on my computer. And then, see if I'm streaming, not going to Power Systems Analysis. Bummer. And then I go to YouTube, and I create the YouTube stream for IAEI News Live. Go to YouTube Studio, I log in as IAEI, I switch my account to my IAEI's account, which we have on IAEI News Live, on IAEI's YouTube channel. We're approaching 2,400 followers. We have gained over 186 new followers in the last 28 days. Thank you for all of the success for IAEI. That organization has been great to me during my career. And if you were a member, I'm sure that it would be great for you as well. So IAEI has, again, done a lot for me. Let me brighten things up here a little bit. Is that better? So IAEI has done a lot for me in my career. So, but anyway, what we have to understand is we all accept some level of risk in our day-to-day lives, in our business. We have to manage risk. So you can't manage it unless you understand it. So what I'd love to do in today's session, so I'm writing the description. Today's Pound IAEI News Live session is on the topic of risk. This month, the month of May, is a National Electrical Safety Month. And we need to understand this fundamental topic of risk. Risk is comprised of two key aspects. Would you call it aspects? I don't know if I'd call it aspects. Two key components, colon, likelihood and severity. Today's session will dig into likelihood and severity as we enter Electrical Safety Month. All right, so then I go to change the image, and I have to go to my, IAEI News Live. IAEI News Live cover. I tagged it with cover. And then I look at the date modified risk. There it is, today at 8:49. I do the upload. Now I have a cover. And I hit next. I hit next. I hit next. I make it public. And today is what? Today is the 7th. I'm going to make it for 12 o'clock p.m. So I screwed up last week. I was in a different time zone. I set it for what I thought. I set the time zone for Eastern, and I don't know what happened, but it happened. All right, let me do a copy. And what I'll do is I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go to my LinkedIn site, view on LinkedIn. There I am. I'm going to add a comment. The link to the live stream today at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern on Pound IAEI News Live is Control V. Bam! Right there. Control V. There it is. So you have, and I'm going to put this in my dashboard. I did that on LinkedIn because, here we go, Control V. Here's the link. Here is the link for today's session. Share. Bam. That's going to hit my YouTube site. Hit my YouTube site. I had to manually hit LinkedIn, and it's not putting it on Facebook. I doubt I'm even streaming on Facebook. I am. I'm streaming on my site on Facebook. So view on Facebook. I'm going to put the link over there as well. Comments. I'm going to comment. All right, here's the link for Pound IAEI News Live today at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Control V. There we go. So you have the link now for the event today. We know we're going to talk about risk. I want to share some of the information that I have regarding shock. Like, where do we get the 4 to 6 milliamps from? We'll take a look at a report that was put together back in the 30s, where there was back in the 30s, and it was around shock when they started to electrify farms in the United States. So we'll talk about that. We'll take a look at some of the data there. Disconnect. We'll take a look at some of the data in that forum, and then what else? We'll talk about where we get statistics. I mean, remember, risk is likelihood and severity. In my opinion, the hardest part of that is likelihood. I mean, I have a lot of math. I have a lot of calculations and test data to understand severity. We have videos of explosions to understand severity. What I don't have, or what's hard to address, is likelihood, because likelihood is dependent upon a human factor, right? We have to think about human nature. We have to think about the mistakes that can happen when we are performing electrical work or any work. I mean, it doesn't matter. Even if when you think about when you get in a vehicle and you're driving down the street, there's risk associated with that. And we know statistics. We know what a crash at 55 mile an hour looks like when you have a head-on collision. We have data to help you understand the survivability of different types of crashes that can occur. But what I can't quantify in a mathematical equation is likelihood. I can't tell you what is the likelihood of somebody losing their attention on the road. What's the likelihood of somebody glancing away a split second before something happens in front of them? I can't give you that. What we rely, when we talk about likelihood, we rely on statistics, we rely on data, and I would argue our general knowledge of the topic at hand. I don't need a statistic. If I took two conductors and put them in a hotel lobby, if I took a branch circuit in a hotel lobby, took the receptacle off, and left a bare, hot, and neutral conductor hanging out, I don't need a statistic to tell me that should be resolved and fixed. I could argue it's pretty likely that someone's going to accidentally or intentionally touch those two conductors and receive a shock. Am I basing that on statistics? Heck no. I'm basing it on my understanding of the hazard and my understanding of, or my, not understanding of, but my my opinion on whether or not someone may touch those conductors. It's my opinion. And you could say, Tom, I could leave those two conductors in that lobby and no one would ever touch it, because everybody understands when they see two conductors and they see that bare copper not to touch it, so no one is going to touch it. That would be your opinion. And that's why we have processes and codes and standards to help us navigate those waters of opinions and experiences. So statistics are important, but I would argue we pepper in there our own personal opinions and maybe our own personal experience regarding risk. Now, what we'll talk about too, hopefully we'll get to it, but even if we don't get to it, it's still important to understand the aspects what codes and standards brings to the table to manage risk. We manage risk in the National Electrical Code. We manage risk in the building codes. We manage risk in general, just personally. When you get in the car, if you take your cell phone and you say, look, I know that I have a hard time staying away from this thing, and you make the decision, the personal decision, to take your cell phone and put it in a bag in the back seat somewhere, so you're not tempted to grab it and look while you drive. That is your decision that you're making to manage risk. You may be a design engineer and make decisions in your design to reduce severity or likelihood. You may put certain equipment behind locked doors and only give that key to qualified people because you're managing risk. You're limiting the exposure and the possible interaction of unqualified people with that equipment by taking that action. So we manage risk on a daily basis. Dan Hurek says, your opinion may also be based on experience and knowledge of human nature. Exactly, Dan. I agree with you 100%. Now, the challenge that we have, the moment you go down into those areas, is it is a personal opinion. And it's based upon your experience, not someone else's. I have spoken to people who will sit down and say, look, I've been doing this for 100 years. I've been doing, not 100 years, but I've been in the business for 20 years and nothing like this has ever happened, so I don't need to do that. Now, that's his personal experience or her personal experience. That may not be mine. I'll never forget, there was I was at I gotta love this one. So I was at a Southern Section meeting. This goes back a long time ago. And a good friend of mine was trying to propose a public input for the National Electrical Code. And it was on, let me see if while I talk about this, I'm going to see if I can find the web page. It was trying to provide ground fault circuit interrupter protection. It was trying to provide ground fault circuit and interrupter protection for conductors that are routed through metal framing. All right. Now, the gentleman's name, I believe, was Rinaldi. I'm trying to find, it was in the news. He was delivering a dryer. Delivery man. And what he did was he set the dryer in place, and he was pushing the dryer vent through the wall, and he was electrocuted. So, dryer vent electrocution, Florida. The gentleman was in Florida. Here we go. Here it is. See if I can do this. All right. Read the story and watch the video. Ah, man, they took it down. Ugalde, Lisa Ugalde, Ugalde, or Ugalde or whatever. I'd read the letter, but I don't think I can. I don't think I can, just because of there was a letter from Lisa Ugalde, the gentleman's wife. He left his wife and 2 children because he did not realize that the infrastructure was energized. So now there's a point to this story, and I wish I had the I'm still looking. So yeah, all this stuff is all been taken down. Raphael. Raphael Ugalde. So, and all of this. So it says one of the nation's largest home builders delivery. Raphael Ugalde died while on the job in Florida. Ugalde was electrocuted even though power to the room had been turned off. That's another key thing. Power to the room was turned off. The wires behind the hallway wall were punctured by a screw. It was a drywall screw that went through the metal framing and then through the wiring. So all of this was talked about at the southern section meeting in I forget where it was at. And I was in the audience, and I looked at the proposal and I saw the substantiation, and this was used as the substantiation. It says attorney O.B. Samuel, who has documented the investigation into Ugalde's death, said a drywall screw had been fired through the yellow wire casing, piercing the hot wire inside and the metal stud. That created a giant power circuit that electrified the house. When they tore down the wall, it was quite obvious that what had happened, Samuel said. An electrical subcontractor for the project, it's a builder's name, I'm not going to say the name, found 110 volt flowing through the screws of the room's mirror. Now, I saw that video. That video showed an electrician opening the medicine cabinet, and they put a voltage probe on the screw that was holding the medicine cabinet into the wall, which obviously went through the metal framing, and he went to the spigot of the faucet in the bathroom, and his meter said 120 volts or 110 volts, whatever it was, 110, 120, whatever it takes, right? So the challenge was at the southern section meeting of the IEI. In that meeting, and I don't know if anybody out there was watching this was at that meeting, but when this was brought up, a few people had made negative comments against it. One person stood up and he said, "Who in this room has ever had this problem happen? This is a once in a lifetime thing." And I would say there were probably about 120 people in the audience, something like that. And there were a line of people who wanted to speak to this. Two of those people relayed two separate incidents of a very similar situation. They knew somebody who was negatively impacted by shock in that application. So then I stood up. One gentleman had erroneously said, that's why we have AFCI protection. And that's not true. We do not have AFCI protection to prevent electrocutions. That's not a fact. The other gentleman, I refuted that. So I said, look, I explained an AFCI is for electric fire prevention, a GFCI is for shock prevention. An AFCI in this circuit, although we could have the debate on whether or not it would have tripped, because back in those days, I believe this was probably during the branch feeder days, there was ground fault protection of equipment, and there may have been ground fault current flowing in that application, or there may not have, I don't know. It could have isolated it, but ground fault protection of equipment is not required in that technology. Okay, it's still not required. I tried. I made public inputs to the National Electrical Code. They were defeated. I made inputs to the UL standard 1699 for AFCIs to say, look, these things need to have ground fault protection of equipment, and they too were denied. So we cannot guarantee that we have ground fault in those breakers at the source. So the proposal said that any portion of conductor NM wire that would go through metal framing, metal studding, should be protected by a GFCI. And when I got up to the microphone at that meeting, I said, I added clarity on what an AFCI and a GFCI is meant to do, and that GFCI is not required for that home run circuit. What do? We would typically put it in a receptacle, and those would protect downstream, but that circuit could have gone anywhere because they killed power to that room. So the wire that was going through the wall that was penetrated was its end life, or its journey was through the room, but it wasn't to the room. So my comment was, after hearing two individuals step up to the microphone, the statistic that I quoted was 2 out of about 120 people that were in that audience know somebody who was impacted in this manner from this type of an application. Arguments were made. Look, they were supposed to have rubber grommets. Okay, they were supposed to, and they didn't. Does that mean if you do everything correctly, you don't need GFCI protection? That means I could take GFCI out of the code everywhere, because you should never need a GFCI to provide protection if you do everything right, right? So I know I'm on my soapbox, but anyway, likelihood and severity. The likelihood of that is probably low. But my statistic was 2 out of about 120 people in an audience knows somebody who is negatively impacted when you mix metal framing and NM wire together. That was my statistic. My personal feeling was I would support that. It only makes sense to me, knowing that I don't omit shock protection, GFCI protection, when if I assume that, look, you need to be qualified and you need to follow the rules. And if you're not qualified and you don't follow the rules, then you know what, all bets are off, buddy. I don't believe in that process. So or that feeling, that belief, whatever you want to call it. So, that was the story, and I think the case of Mr. Ugaldi is a sad one, and it's not necessary, in my opinion. It is not necessary. I think that if we provide shock protection for all of our circuits, I don't know of any reason why you should die in your home from electrocution. That's my personal opinion. That's why I protected all my circuits in my home. All my circuits have GFCI protection. I keep track of all those electrons. But we're managing risk. We're making either a personal decision to manage risk, or we make the management of risk a part of a code or a standard. We're not eliminating risk. Even on a GFCI protected circuit, could you die? Yes. If you have fall protection on, could you die? Yes. You have an airbag in your car. You have seatbelts on. In an accident, could you die? Yes. But what are we doing with all of those safety things? We're managing risk. We're reducing likelihood and in some cases severity. An airbag hopefully reduces severity. Seatbelts reduce severity. The automatic warning systems on vehicles that tell you you're going over in this lane, you're going over that lane. When you back up, there's a camera. There's alarms to tell you that there's an obstacle behind you. Those reduce likelihood. Because you have an alarm on your car, because you have a backup mirror or a video camera, does that mean you will never hit anything? Absolutely not. It does mean that when you do hit something, if you hit something, you're going to go, oh boy, I had an audible and I had a visual and I ignored them both. Or maybe I'll tell you, and I laugh because this happened to me. I backed out of my garage and I hit my own vehicle. Okay, I have a camera on my dashboard showing my truck behind me. I have an alarm that goes off, but the problem with the alarm is every time I go out of my garage, the alarm goes off because of the doors and stuff. So I tune that alarm out knowing that every time I leave my vehicle, when the alarm goes off and I look, I see, oh, it's just because the garage doors are there and they're close. It thinks there's something else there. So I tune out the alarm. The camera, I typically look at the camera because I want to make sure I don't have something laying on the floor behind my vehicle, like a rake, my lawnmower, my leaf blower, or whatever. Because I'll do that in my garage. I set things down and I don't know, my mind goes elsewhere. So I watched the video. But that specific day, I was so worried because when I pulled my vehicle in, I was a little bit too close to the left-hand side. So my mirror was going to be very close to the garage door frame. And when I backed up, I was so focused on that mirror that I backed right into my pickup truck. I had a camera and I had an audible. Did it eliminate the possibility that I would do that? Absolutely not. But many times it's reduced the likelihood. I've relied on both of those and have been made aware of obstacles that were in my way that caused me to stop. So they're doing their job. It's just my human error. It was my fault. In fact, I didn't even claim my vehicle. It's a company vehicle, so the company had to take care of the company car, but my vehicle that I hit, I didn't even want to tell any insurance company. I went and paid to replace my light on my pickup truck because that was the only damage, and it was expensive, but there was no way I was going to ask somebody else to pay for my mistake. So it just, that's the way it rolls. So anyway, that was a lesson in the fact that we can put things in places. It will not eliminate the possibility. It will reduce the likelihood. So today at 12 o'clock Eastern, we're going to dig into risk on IAEI News Live. The link is in the chat on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and Facebook. Take a look at the chat. It's at 12 o'clock Eastern. I hope to see you live on IAEI News Live today. Looking forward to it. Let's talk risk. All right, everybody. Have a good day. Have a fantastic, fabulous, safe day today. Stay safe, and please do whatever you can and stay healthy. See you at 12 o'clock Eastern. Till then.